Welcome to this video. This is lesson number 1 for beef, chicken, and pork training. So we will be going over everything regarding protein in terms of beef, chicken, and pork, and how we can relay our knowledge to our customers, our restaurant customers. So this is really geared for people that, salespeople that sell this category to their food service customers. And we want to know everything about this category that we can to help our customers to be successful. So we'll be going over subprimals, cut steaks, everything. It's all encompassing. So this is just a general overview right now. So what's the goal of this training? The goal is to be able to have a conversation, discussion with our customers about specific protein items that are either they're currently buying or they're interested in purchasing. So either a customer's already buying a certain item, they like it, we can do a better job, we can do it for less money. But we need to understand exactly what it is that they want from us. And to be able to do that, we've got to understand this whole category and have those kind of conversations with our customers. So that's key. So we want to expand your knowledge of the protein category. It's something that if you can become an expert in the center of the plate category, you really can help your customers tremendously. You can control the account because if they need you because of this, that's where they make their money. That's why it's so extremely important to really be knowledgeable in this area. If you want to penetrate your existing business, if you shy away from selling protein because you're not confident in selling it, well, that's something that we want to be able to help you to learn. So, and if you're running a truck and you're selling the customer dry goods or paper products, think produce, for example, and you don't sell in protein because you're scared of it or afraid of it, you don't understand it, well, this is the opportunity to really learn it. That's part of the goal of the course as well. To increase your average case cost. So you might sell a case of green beans or something, dry goods for, $20. Well, a case of tenderloins could be $500. So as long as you're running a truck, again, and the customer buys that and you don't sell it to them, and you can, provided that you understand what you're selling to them, it just makes sense, right? You can be a so-called a one-stop shop to your customer. To increase your gross profit dollars. So what are gross profit dollars? So for example, if my sales cost on a steak is $10 and I sell it for $11, that's $1 a pound profit. And let's say, well, let's use a subprimal as an example. So a subprimal meaning, let's say a tenderloin. If I pay $10 a pound and I sell it for $11 a pound and it's a 60-pound case because those cases are heavy, that's 60 GP dollars, gross profit dollars. So that's actual money, right? So it's not margin. People talk about margin when they sell products to restaurants. So margin is simply sales cost versus what I sell it for in terms of percentage. It's a percentage. This is not a percentage. Gross profit dollars is a dollar amount. So that's why the big guys in our industry, the big distributors, really push protein because it's so expensive and it's so heavy. The cases are big. For example, if I sell a case of green beans and I pay $10 a case for the green beans, my sales cost, and I sell it for $11, my GP dollars are $1. Compared to that other example where my GP dollars are $60. If it's $10 a pound and I sell it for $11 a pound and it's a 60-pound case, that's 60 GP dollars. You can't get those kind of gross profit dollars. You'd have to sell 60 cases of green beans to equal that. So that's why it's such a good category to sell. One of the reasons. So what's the job of our purchasing department? It's to get the best value for the purchasing dollar, right? It's not just to get the cheapest thing out there because cheap is not always cheap. And I'll get into that later in the course, but we want good value and we want to be competitive. That's the goal. We don't want something that, for example, has a ton of fat on it that has a lot of yield loss. That if, it's got a 50% yield loss, and if I paid $10 and I have a 50% yield loss, I really pay $20. So that doesn't make any sense either. So our goal is to buy quality product the best we can at the fairest price we can buy it for. That's the goal. So the beef industry in this country, or the poultry industry, or the pork industry, there's not a ton of humongous packers out there. There's some big ones for sure, but there's a lot of individual family farms that sell their cattle or sell their chickens to these producers, these packers. And so it's not a situation where one of these major packers necessarily is going to be, $4 a pound less money than the other guy or other packer. It just doesn't work like that. So I say that in context, meaning that it's kind of an even playing field. Now there's some better quality packers than others, no question about it. And some people play the price game, and some people play the quality game. But you'll get to know that as you understand this industry a little bit better. But basically, it's, if I'm buying IBP product from one vendor and the other vendor has IBP and it's the same product, there's not going to be a $5 a pound difference or $4 or $3 typically. If there is a difference, and there will be some difference, I mean, not everybody sells things for the same, it's 50 cents or something like that, there's a reason why. And our job, partly as salespeople and experts in this category, is to understand why that's the case. Why is my competitor more money or less money than I am? And there's always a reason. It's just, you just can't walk away from that scenario where you're a little more expensive and the customer says, well, it's the same thing, and there's lots of reasons, and some of the reasons aren't because of the actual product. But again, you're going to face that, because in the commodity business, in the beef, chicken, and poultry industry, prices change on a daily basis sometimes, and you have to understand that. It can have to do with inventory, quality, the salesperson, is he on commission or salary, is he new, or there's just so many reasons why. But again, we need to understand, and part of that uncovering process is to go into the restaurant and you have that relationship with the customer and to look at the product, right? Not forget the invoice, look at the product and see what's going on. And we'll get into that later. We're going to see pictures and examples of differences of product and quality and why there sometimes is a difference. So that won't be a problem at all. Beef prices are regulated by supply and demand. So generally speaking, if something's short out there, if we can't get it, it's going to be expensive. And that happens all the time. If there's a bird flu or, the bird weights are low or whatever the case might be, but it's regulated just like anything really by supply and demand. If things are abundant, the price goes down. If things are tight and you can't get them, the price will be more expensive. So it's unlikely that a supplier would carry a product that's far below market value, like I said before, while others are carrying the same product at market value, at market price. So if you know the market price, and you should know where the market stands on pricing for all these different items, generally speaking, and we'll get into that later, you'll know that you're right where you should be, you're too expensive based on, again, other factors, and we'll get into those later, or you're cheaper if that were the case. So, but I mean, we all carry mostly the same items. Again, different qualities, things like that. But if you know all the differences out there, you can recommend certain things to your customers that they might be able to take advantage of and help them in their business. So if there is a humongous difference in the price, whether you're too expensive or too cheap, it's really a case of buyer beware. And again, we'll get into all this later. Some of the reasons why. But you have to dive in. You've got to understand why there's a difference in price. Can't overemphasize that. It's really, really important. So just a couple more things about purchasing. If there's a difference between pricing or products, it could be just a couple of short reasons right now while we're talking about it. It could be because we're not quoting the same item, right? It could be, for example, a different grade. If my customer buys select tenderloins and I'm quoting them on choice because I didn't ask the question, they didn't tell me, well, I'm going to be more expensive. If they're buying prime and I quote them on select, I'm going to be less expensive. And if I ship them select and they are used to buying prime and it says prime on the menu, whatever it is, they're not going to be happy because it's not as good a product. The quality isn't as good. So again, you need to know what you're selling, what they're buying, what they're interested in. Maybe they don't like what they're buying, right? We can suggest other things as well. That's important. So it could be a frozen product they're buying that typically can be less money than a fresh product. It could be a native cattle, or it could be a Holstein, which is a male dairy cow. It could be that. There's discrepancies like that. So if the price is too good to be true, it is. It's something is up, right? Something is up. Now, this is just a general overview of when beef prices are higher and lower throughout the year. So you can just take a quick peek at this. Tenderloins, tenderloins, strip loins, ribeyes, and short loins typically go up during the holiday season, December, things like that. So, and you can see when they're low, right? So if you're buying a bunch of tenderloins in December, you're going to pay much more than you would in June. You know, it's just the nature of the business, and they always go up. They always go up, and they go up significantly. Like you could, for example, pay $30 a pound for a center cut fillet steak in December, where in June it might be, I don't know, $18, $19, something like that, a choice center cut fillet steak. It just depends. So this is a good guide, and your customers probably don't know this. Wow, you know what? I see this trend, right? They're not really sure why, but as a experienced and educated protein salesperson, these are things that you can share with them. It's important. You're providing information that probably nobody else has, and that's crucial. So, and one final thing, just generally speaking, because we're going to get into it in the future videos here. When you sell steaks to a customer, portion control steaks, it's important that you know this, right? So if their cooler temperature is 32 degrees at the top here, it has a shelf life usually at 21 days, 21-day shelf life at 32 degrees. So at 40 degrees, which a lot of your customers leave the cooler door open, you know, because they're in and out and it's lunchtime or dinner time or something like that and they're busy, and it's 40 degrees on a regular, consistent basis, maybe their cooler's just not keeping cold. It's got a 6-day shelf life. So sometimes customers will call you and go, oh my, you know, these steaks, you told me they lasted 21 days. That's kind of typical in our industry when it comes to cut steaks in a cryovac bag, right? They're saying, well, it didn't last. Well, you can't, you know, instead of writing credit, you need to go out there and take a look and see what temperature the cooler's at and where they have it in the cooler and the whole thing. So this is just something that is important, just general knowledge. A rise in temperature of 8 degrees will shorten your shelf life by 14.7 days. That's huge, right? Because that box of steaks would be $150, and if they don't hold it properly, they're going to blame you for, like, hey, you're selling me stuff that is bad, right? It didn't last. So something else to keep in mind. But anyway, that's the end of this lesson 1 overview. We're going to get into a lot more detail as we move forward. And thanks for being here, and appreciate your time. See you in the next one.